Hi, this is Emily with Pixel Breakdown, and today we have Antypodish working on UMeFate. Do you want to give a quick
Hello.
introduction?
Hello, guys, everyone. Thank you very much, Emily, for having me. Yes, I'm Antypodish, and
Yeah.
I work on UMeFate, as you as you can see.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you in. I was looking through some of the posts that you made on your UMeFate subreddit, and they had me just so intrigued to see what you do with like AI and everything. So super excited to have you. I'll also link the subreddit in the description. So what inspired you to create UMeFate? And you mentioned in one of your posts that you're looking to fill a gap in the sim genre. What gap is that you're seeing, and like what are you trying to fill?
Yeah. So one important thing before, because we got a lot of questions to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's fine. I'm gonna do just a small disclaimer at the beginning. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Before
of course. Go for it. Yeah.
So a lot of answer will be given because this project is still like early stages.
Right.
So a lot of things there will be they are planned, right? They might be taking time, they taking years. This is not something that's going to happen tomorrow. So this is just to be known. Yes. So because I got a lot of planned doesn't mean I'm going to implement that tomorrow. It might be in the year's time to implement long way. Yeah.
No, I think it's something that's worth the wait. Again, like the posts where you were talking about just kind of what your plans are, and sort of talking about like AI in general and how it could be used to look further into some of these things that we're going to be talking about. That alone is just really exciting, seeing someone notice these potentials. Because like Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, all of that is making like AI more accessible to people. So it's exciting to see what people have plans for, AI in general with gaming. So disclaimer, yes, we know it's very early stages. This is plans for what you have planned, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What inspired me to UMeFate? So I'm gaming for many years, like literally a couple of decades now. Like since I was almost born, I've been playing games on old PCs, like even Amiga. I mean, we're going back in 90s, right? So a lot of years of experience playing different games. But what more inspired me towards the UMeFate, creating this game, this project, is games like Dwarf Fortress, the Sims series. Unfortunate situation with Life by You, but Life by You is a very big inspiration for me for this project as well as many other games like even Civilization or tycoon games in general, economy. I want to, play with those things and kind of combine them into one project.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And I saw in one of your posts that you mentioned that Sims have become too cozy. Which, when you were talking about it, I agree. But like, what specific challenges do you want the player to experience in UMeFate?
So in terms of coziness, there's a lot of safeguards what is implemented, and it is fair because the Sims, like many other games, are addressing this to specific type of the community, which is great. And because there's different type of communities and people looking for different type of games, as well as we have different type of live sims coming up, and all those have their own type of the community. What I'm trying to do is to less of safeguarding, right? Actually, I want to take away safeguard, something inspired by Life by You we've been trying to do, and allow players to experiment with their life, do things what they want. We could say like, you had this you can do whatever you do on your PC, and you can do. So if you want to get crazy, then that's fine. And this is what basically you can do things, right? If you do other crimes, or even think of talking about like sickness or illness, you could potentially with the mod go into the disease kind of behaviors, which is something that happens in the, let's say, the Sim series, right? You have quite safe kind of playing, so more kind of apocalyptic world, if you can imagine, right?
I love
this kind
that.
one of the direction basically you could go with available potentially tools in the future. So the rest is left to the imagination, right?
Yeah, it really seems like you're creating the basis for whatever game people want to turn it into, almost, right? Like it's like every avenue, there's a bunch of different paths you can it's basically like real world almost, like so that's just so exciting for me, because I am one of those players who I enjoy. It's like if I start a sim, before I know it, a lot of hours have passed, so I will get sucked in. But there are times where it's like, man, I wish I had more. I can break down some of those walls. Like I am one of those players who wants to have like a little more control and a little more chaos of availability, like in the game. So the idea of a fully dynamic community where actions actually ripple across the world is really ambitious. And I saw that was another one of the things that you had mentioned in your posts. What inspired this mechanic, and how do you plan to execute it?
Yeah, so this is one of the challenge, although not something impossible, because this has been done in the certain games in various levels. So, for example, at Dwarf Fortress, you have a kind of effect of rippling through the world. So, if you play, I don't know, did you play actually Dwarf Fortress? Do you know this game
I
at
have
all?
not. No, I don't think I have.
Yeah. What about RimWorld? Have you heard? Have you seen it? Any?
No.
Okay,
should I?
Fine.
They are really good.
Well, they're different, right?
Okay.
They're different to let's say the Sim series, but this is about the life, but the more difficult in some, the more challenging, I would say, right?
Yeah.
But you control the community rather than specific character. So this completely is different than the Sims. Okay, so you drive in the community. So for example, in Dwarf Fortress, you start with a small, I would say you build like a village, but you can actually build village in the mountains, right? You give the like planning where you want to build rooms, what you want to be in those rooms, what to produce. You're given the you given
parameters.
Parameters, but actually more like jobs, right? To your dwarves, and those dwarves actually can. This dwarf fortress is very similar in the sense with the RimWorld. This community grows into hundreds, right?
Yeah.
So you're starting with a couple of dwarves in the hundreds, and it's actually a very challenging game because there is various events happening. There can be sickness, there can be riots, there can be lack of water. Basically, your whole colony can die out. You got merchants coming in.
You're God, basically.
Yeah, exactly, right. So those is a lot of inspiration, basically inspirational things, and also there is aspects in terms of the characters itself. So the characters, they have own personalities. Each one has own personality, which is very important because this it is in real life. So as in UMeFate, I want to give their own personality. We're gonna talk about this later, like biases, and all those. And those things which makes actually feel alive. And with those biases, for example, if somebody is, or let's say even talking some, let's say even alcohol, right? It can change your behavior in the sense, and those characters can be angry, like in The Sims, right? In The Sims also, the characters can be angry, but it can affect the population. and it can affect dramatically, right? Because somebody works and to produce, for example, food, and for example, is get disturbed by other character. Now, this food will not be delivered to the rest of the colony, right?
Right.
So
So
you
it
see, so
is like a ripple domino effect.
exactly.
I love that. Because even in some of the other like life sim games, yeah, there is some rippling, but it is a little more limited as to like how that ripple affects things. And it sounds like yours is really going to let it ripple into a wave, even.
Exactly. Yeah. So this, yeah, we're gonna talk about this a bit later. I think it's a further question.
So how will the AI in UMeFate make the world feel alive? Like, can you share some examples of how NPCs will interact dynamically?
Yeah. So first, this is a little small disclaimer because in terms of AI, we need to be clarified because you mentioned ChatGPT or other ones. But to be honest, I don't want to go this direction.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I don't know if it's disappointing or not, but this is basically this is for the clarification, and I'm gonna say exactly why. So while the technology is interesting, but it is also limiting what you can do. On one hand side, yes, you can like have the stories and the progression and write the books or RPGs with assisting, and that's fine. But the limitation comes if I, for example, I want to target, let's say, mid-range hardware, PC and the players up to the higher ones. Those tools require quite decent specs in terms of PCs. So by using those tools, I will limit who can actually use those.
Okay.
That's one limitation. Second limitation is that if I have 1,000 characters in the world, up to 1,000 characters, your computer wouldn't be able physically to run this kind of algorithm to create the variations dynamically. And saying that, okay, it might be a bit disappointing what you might thought, but that's why I'm saying this.
No, it's not disappointing at all. No. Yeah.
And to be said, I like all those technologies and ChatGPTs and other ones. I love and I do elevate the usage of those tools whenever it's possible, but they are not replacement for certain things.
I will say too, they limit content wise. Like there's some questions you ask and it's like, I can't answer that. And it's like, I could see that being limiting in a game like the one you're creating where you want like no limitations, no rules, whatever is happening based off those ripples to happen. The other thing is I'm more saying like, it's exciting that AI is being brought to the forefront in general, like that people are starting to think of it more because it is more accessible. So I am not disappointed at all that you're looking at doing your own thing. It's more like, this is just exciting because I haven't heard yet of a game that said, oh yeah, AI, let's really bring it into the game and like create story off of it and stuff. So yeah.
So so there's a few things regarding the AI. Depends how we want to talk it and take into consideration. Let's say Inzoi implements the AI, the concept, and they elevate this technology, and that's fair because they might have also power and the resources to implement this. Right. I'm at the moment one man. Who's just working on this project, and certain things I cannot do myself, even things, okay, I can implement this technology and maybe we're quicker, but not necessarily because there's other complexity comes with it. Where other one, which I mentioned, has quite of resources to implement those tech, and they can use, for example, cloud based system AI, and for example, you can utilize those things. But generally, when you use those technology, it requires time. There's some delay as well, and when you want to have everything dynamic and they have a lot of things happening, you got limitation of the terms of the technology what you can do for those kind of scale.
Right.
On the other hand, by using different approach, which actually it is now, this is very, very relatively new thing because when we're talking these days, like this year and maybe past year, about AI, everybody thinking about machine learning and those algorithms.
Right,
But,
right.
but the artificial intelligence term is not something new. It's been used in the games for since the whatever games they've been starting existing, right?
Yeah.
So more safer will be using in this type of project of UMeFate as autonomous characters of Yumis. I'm called them Yumis, yeah, like UMeFate. So those
Yeah.
the characters Yumis.
Yeah.
So, so NPCs, they will be autonomous. AI is, it makes it a bit complex. I thought it might be a bit confusing because like AI, okay, now everybody think the AI is, something new and think, no, the AI, artificial
Right.
intelligence, is nothing new. It's just
Right.
how you implement it, right?
Yeah.
So back in to your questions, okay. So can you share the example of how how NPCs will interact with the world and what makes the is alive? So again, we're talking about Dwarf Fortress, which been developed, I think, in 90s, and it create a whole dynamic world. This is not
Right.
something wasn't been done. Okay, so my point is that it can be done, and I want to elevate this, approach a similar way, and those all knowledge is available to implement. Even the Sims. The Sims got systems of how they actually make interactive world, even story based. Okay, you got story driven, community. But even if
Right.
you got household, let's say 8 characters, right? 8 people in the household, and they interact with each other. That's not because of the chat GPT, right? They
Right.
can't feel really real. For example, if you play like The Sims 2 and 3 specifically, those felt very real of the behaviors. They notice that somebody been, kissing somebody else, all right, doing
Yeah.
something. They join in conversation. They want to fight. They want to play. They want to sleep, and etc. And sharing kind of experience between each other to a certain extent, right? So all
Yeah.
been done. And Will Wright, which has been doing the Sims first series, he exchanged and he gave a lot of information online. It is available. He explained exactly how things been done.
Yeah.
Okay. So I read a lot of those guys, those early developers of of those games, it's like including Black and White. For example, there's another developer which create very interactive games. The talking with the other devs or following the development from early alpha games, you see how they implement those systems, those challenging systems. They share the knowledge, or is available. It's just to reach out. So, for example, in The
Yeah.
Sims, how you make this, for example, system, characters, for example, interact with whatever they need. Okay, the basic thing is needs. This is something which I want to start very relatively soon working on AI. So what's your needs? Basic needs is sleep, food, and communication, right? You can
Yeah.
expand it further, right? But there's very basic things which we want to follow. And from technical point of view, depends if you want to go there that far, but it is basically um, choosing which is the prioritize, right? And those priority will change over the time. If you're more hunger, your priority grows higher. And
Yeah.
if it grows high enough, now that's okay. I'm hungry and so I should prioritize that. I'm going to look for the food. And where's the
Eventually you'll
food?
do anything to get the food, right? Or like you'll do anything to maybe obtain the money to get the food or whatever it might be. Yeah.
Exactly. And this has been done. It's just about the scale, how you start doing. So this is part of the autonomy. We could say AI, but AI is, I think, confusing these days.
Yeah.
Autonomy of the characters. So, okay, first thing is the needs. Yeah. So we're solving that. This has been solved. This is nothing new. The difference is, in my world, of UMeFate, is bigger scale because we got up to 1,000 characters, but you could play with a smaller amount of community.
Yeah.
Certain thing is about actually learning the world. So when you're born and the same characters, they don't know much about the world, but the world will be the knowledge about the world will be shared by where things are, where to find the food, and where to go to school, where to go to work, where there's good some interesting events, but as well as learning the biases, which we're gonna talk in later. And shaping as well, changing and shaping the norms of something which, again, biases. We're going to talk about this in a moment. So those things, they will be changing, as well observing the world. So observing something happened there, something happened there. Okay, can I interact or can I not interact with it?
Yeah.
The challenge will be to execute this right, to feel it right, and so it doesn't feel mechanic.
Right.
So yeah, and on the scale. So there's some questions which will be later when we'll be answering those ones, but that is about getting into it. And basically, everything is about starting small, starting
Right.
basics.
No, it seems like you're spending a lot of time getting the basics right before you start branching out much, which I think is like the best approach, especially down the line as things are getting more complicated. But I do think you're spending a lot of time getting the things that are going to be the most important done right, you know? So that's why it's exciting to see. So I know I saw in one of your posts, UMeFate aims to introduce like dynamic AI behaviors like social norms, cultural habits, and even addictions, maybe. So have you started designing any of those? And have you hit any issues designing that sort of complex? I can tell from your posts that you're doing a lot of research into these things, like the groundwork. So that's great. But yeah, I'm just curious, like.
Yeah. So design is still in the process. I haven't wrote code yet for that.
Okay.
Not something. This is new for me because I work on other projects and I've been experimenting with other things and made a lot of prototypes before even I started this project. This project been in my mind for years. It's not something I just started, let's say, last year.
Right.
I've had this project in my mind for years, and before I even started this, I had a number of prototypes, but I've been trying different individual systems. So when I get to this project, I knew what I can do.
Yeah.
And what I cannot do, for example, and that's certain limitation. So for now, I'm doing researching. But while I'm doing researching as well, talking a lot with my girlfriend, which also interested with those kind of aspects. Very important for me in the process. Having the support of my girlfriend. First thing is to analyze the social behaviors and those aspects and how the habits and addiction works in terms of real life, right? What make you addicted to something, addicted to reading, addicted to watching TV, addicted to go outside to play the football, to drinking, and etc. etc.
It spikes some pleasure in your head. Yeah.
Exactly. So something which makes you pleasure, right? And you want to do it more because it's fun, and you start prioritize, because if this getting stronger and you might strengthen it, you prioritize this over doing something else.
Right.
So that's first layer, right? So analyzing how these social behaviors are actually affecting real human. Second layer is actually how to convert those behaviors into mechanics or digitalize it, right? Certain things been done, but by analyzing, I'm talking a lot again with my girlfriend a lot with how would like to implement into the system. My girlfriend maybe not as that technical in that aspect, but I spend a lot of time designing, or maybe on the paper, or using some mirror board, let's say, so like drawing the boxes, and in my mind, how I want to implement from the technical point of view. So let's say addiction, right? How am I gonna reflect the addiction, right, of in the system? How is gonna be, let's say, increase, or maybe you're gonna decrease? How is the certain behaviors or beliefs or prejudices, right? Those can change dynamically in the world, and how it's gonna affect. So it's all about the understanding the process, the theory first.
Yes. Yeah.
Implementing converting into mechanics.
That's what makes it so exciting, though, like your post, because you are looking into the actual like psychology side and like so I have a lot of faith in what you create whenever you do start doing the technical side of implementing this, because you are spending a lot of research and it looks like you're spending a lot of time thinking about these things, not just rushing something. Also, I think it's really cute that you and your girlfriend develop, like, kind of like work together. Cause I think a couple that like develops together stays together. It's very cute. I also saw she had done some like of the visual design stuff for one of the rooms. So very cute.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nice research as well, so I appreciate it really.
Yeah.
So so in terms of that, there's a lot of things which it's not something we're doing now. It is something we've done for years. It's not just because we're doing that game, because we like talking about different things, almost any topic. Actually, any topic, not almost any topic, really. And this is like over the as long we are here and each other, and we're talking about anything, right? And
well, the definition though of like AI has evolved a lot and expanded, because like even though they were doing great things in the 90s, I think the additional research that we've had since then is it's developing into something more than we even thought it could be, I think. And even just your research that you're spending prior, I think shows that it's not going to be just like AI that we've seen before. It's goes a little more complex than that. So
yeah, definitely want a bit more complex, at least a bit more complex than, let's say, the Sims series.
Right.
So and let's say those cozy games, right? But a lot of inspiration from other games, they are there.
Yeah.
So elevating these things. I'm not strictly reinvent everything from the scratch, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Will the AI, so it sounds like there will be obvious reactions to like the rippling effects. So for example, if a character starts a business, will the community adapt and interact with it organically?
Yeah, so I plan to create economy system. So here's reference to tycoon games, like
yes,
right?
Yeah.
So you got goods, you producing, you got demand, and and selling. How I want to make work as well with the game, it is not only that you go to shop and you buy food, but the shops will be some form eventually at some point in the future. I want that shop will actually have demand and the food be produced and delivered to that shops.
Right.
In terms of goods, this is a very interesting one, because the games actually have limiting what you can, well, not limiting, but many games, let's say in the Sims, but not only the Sims, many live sim games, you have, once you got goods, right? Let's say chair, table, and all that. Once you buy it, but you can replace it and make it better one, right? Replace with better one, and having like better, feeling of the environment, or chair is better, that gives you better, more energy. But what I want to implement here is a bit of wear out. So it is aspect that when you got goods and you utilize those goods, they get in, as a normal chair at home, is getting wear out over the years, right? It's getting damaged and all that. With the AI, it's a bit difficult. With the AI autonomy, it's a bit difficult to implement that. So enough to smart to know where to put things. So there will be some maybe hand holding in that sense.
Right.
But generally, what can be done is that things getting wear out, the lower quality and the demand rising to improve it. So now you can make the characters, Yumis, go, okay, I got broken chair. Can I improve it? Can I repair it, right? I go to shop, buy the, let's say, chair, which gonna kind of replace the same thing, with maybe better quality or something like that. And that's gonna drive kind of, that's my plan, to drive the economy, right?
Interesting.
There will be a lot of balancing regarding that, but basically there won't be just static. Like every good will be just static and nothing else gonna change. And basically you come back in, let's say, few generations to somebody else and got exactly the same furniture, right?
Right.
Might be same type, but because it's just limited space, but technically it will be kind of different or upgraded kind of over time, or will be deteriorated because, for example, there wasn't resources that the family actually been living there, maybe didn't have the resources to fix it, right?
Yeah. Are they
So
going
that's
to
my
maybe
plan.
pick up? Oh, what were you going to say?
No, it's okay. That's the plan, the idea of the direction in the future.
Are they going to be sort of trained on like, because you said there'll be a bit of hand holding right whenever you're like first setting it up or something. Are they going to be trained to be like maybe more inclined to like the style of the furniture that they're first, that they grow up with in the home or something, or like more inclined to using those similar layouts in the future whenever they do adjust their home, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so it's more about the layout.
Okay.
Because layout is more challenging, not necessarily
Yeah.
style. I mean, style is about, that potentially it is something which can be implemented. I want those furnitures actually evolve over the time. Maybe, you have a timeline actually of the, kind of technology. So this kind of chair on this timeline, but you're moving
Yeah.
forward, decade later, and this, the style may change. So that's what available, but something you can replace, right? The challenge is not that. That is actually relatively simple in terms of from technical aspect point of view. It's just time consuming. The challenge is actually the layout, right? Because you need to think, okay, I want to bed, but I want to chair, right? And I want to be careful that I'm not going to put chair on the window or
Right.
on the door, on the blocked, let's say,
A door or something.
a
Yeah.
door or path to the bed, for example, right? So, and if you got more, furnitures, then it is more complex. Maybe in the future, figure out something like that, right? So how to, people been working on different kind of system which create the layouts. So there will be some, at least at the early stage, when I finish working with currently working on the building mechanics and start working, I need to finish the furnitures, fix a couple of things with the furnitures. And people who will be the players who will be building those, let's say, buildings, they might be creating blueprints, which later NPCs the UMIs will be able to reuse it.
Right.
And those will have like placeholders or those furniture suggested where they can be, something in that form. In that
Yeah.
sense, basically, you're not strictly require right complex system and make sure that you don't have 5 beds in the 5-room
Right.
house, right? Yeah, and no space for, let's say, toilet,
Yeah.
things like that. But at least it gives you the layout of where things can be, which are supposed to be bed and all that. That gives you enough flexibility to feel the world dynamic, and as well, because you can change technically blueprint of the building, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you can, let's say, replace the building, and let's say the 5 generations later, there's different building here potentially, right, in this place. But the layout will be like pre-designed because somebody designed, oh, this is the preferable.
Which that mimics real life. Like we have some set sort of like layouts that rooms typically tend to follow, that we can like look online and see, or that we kind of just know based on like growing up. So I don't think of that as hand holding. It's like in real life where like we do have those set standards that get shown to us, Yeah.
Although some people like changing, like moving their furniture around.
Right.
Yeah. I'll repaint the walls and all that. So yeah.
How do you think like AI will handle unpredictable player actions? Will there be like adaptive responsives to things like crime? You were talking about like the economic stuff, but like economic shifts or like political influence even?
Yeah. So crime is an interesting actually challenge, and this is something which I'm thinking, of course, to implement, because crime will be is part of the life, right? Like good things as well as bad things. And question is how it will be punishable, especially when thinking, okay, these days is much easier because, right, everything is digitalized, you got cameras and all that, right? And you can track. but mind, I don't want to fix on the like today's only days, right? Like,
Yeah.
the 2000s where the cameras, the digitalization. I want to allow a bit more flexibility in terms of time span. Maybe, go even before, Middle Ages or something like that. Okay. So this is something which I'm still in the process and investigating and learning how crime worked back in days, right? So it's for example, how somebody stole it, not the process. Okay, I stole it. Okay, now I know that you are stole it. Okay, because if, for example, you are alive, right, then this person stole it, and okay, I can go to judges or whatever police and say that this person stole something, and and will be prosecuted. But now
Right.
but because I need to think as well as those are small things, right? But there are big things, and then potentially, there's something like the wars of the crimes, right? So taking
Yeah.
somebody alive, right? So this will be able to happen as well. I don't want to, limit it to this because this is not life, right? And the games do exist with that. But the question is how you prosecute the person. That's the challenge now, right? So if somebody like disappears, right, and do some crime, and for example, maybe even stole something, but so somebody like take a life of somebody, how chase somebody, like have investigator kind of
Yeah.
detective,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So going that route is I'm analyzing, so the role of detectives was something, it is still existing. Role of detective is still valid and still existing, investigating those things. So I'm doing even a little brainstorming as we speak about this.
Okay. Yeah.
But this is very important aspect how I'm gonna implement, because it's much easier, right? Certain aspect, okay, not having those or limit what you can do, right? And basically not happening. But having this one and executed that in the sensible way, it is something. Honestly, I'm still thinking how to do it. And detective way, I think, will be the best approach at the moment as I can think of.
I'll say I don't want to like divert the conversation too much, but I think from like a psychology standpoint, yeah, there are some cases where some people they've shown like brain changes or something where it's like they just have like evil ingrained in them. But I think a lot of the crime that we see is driven from uh like instability in life and those needs that we have determined are like absolute necessities. Like we need food, we need shelter, we need clothes, things like that. It's like things you could maybe like prioritize. Like you need to do anything to get food, like, or else you're going to die, and you don't want to die. That's number one, right? And a lot of like the crime that we see, I don't think people are born bad. That we're put in a situation where it's like a lot of things went wrong and now I don't have the money to buy food. So it's like, yeah, rather than die, I'm probably going to go steal it or something, right? Like, I don't know. It's an interesting thought.
This is really
yeah.
the right direction, because this is something which I was thinking already about those things, because
Yeah.
this is if you go to work, right, as a character, for example, there is no food. I don't know where's the food because I didn't learn about the world yet, right? But I
Yeah.
know somebody had it, right? I mean,
Somewhere.
I don't know what, yeah. So try to that's the first thing I can get right from, because
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's where the social norms things coming from, because social norms is very dynamic thing, and depending on the environment you are in, your social norms changing. Whatever you with friends is different, when you're in the home different, when you're in the
Right. Right.
community is different. In different countries got different social norms. Your social norm changing, so that's the challenge. Depends, and because something is bad for certain group doesn't mean necessarily it's bad for other ones, right?
Right. Right.
So for example, if someone like arbitrary, sorry, if somebody said like with the family, I said, you don't play the football at home, right? So because your family said don't, but your friends
Right.
actually feel social norm is fun. Actually, you're gonna play
Oh,
with it,
right.
yeah, right.
Throw the ball around
So
in the house, even. Yeah.
yeah.
um Will the AI characters develop biases or prejudices based on past experiences, influencing the way that they interact with like other AI or the player in the event that the player does get to plant themselves into a character?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is very strong thing which I want to implement, and in the process, in the designing this. So how this gonna work? So yes, as a human, you don't know anything, right?
Yeah.
You basically know nothing. Well, well, in the, let's say, The Sims, the best game to as a reference point, you basically know everything. You zoom out, you see the world, and you can get there basically. What I want
Yeah.
to do, I don't think I got some videos shorting in the background, but not at the moment. Um, when you as a player, you will be starting the game. You know nothing about the world unless something predefined, but generally you don't. You need to discover. It's like what's called fog of war. It's like a fog. Basically, you don't know the area. You explore it. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
learning about the
Yeah.
world, so you
Yeah.
don't know the map,
Exactly.
right? So that's first thing, and you learn about those places. Same for the characters. I mean, the characters will not know those places, but they will learn about those places depending on discussion with others, chatting with, so discussing. I want to learn about the new fun places or places where you can have food, something, or where to work, right? And if some other characters knows, you will share it. In terms of biases, there's something, if you live with let's say with your family, your biases as well grows with your family and make it stronger as you grow older, right? So for
Right.
example, your bias is, for example, to not play at home, right? You learn not to play at home, and you're less likely to play if somebody can come and want to play at home football, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But similar, like prejudice and other things, you learn those things, you communicate with others. If, for example, your characters are similar in The Sims, you communicate with the other and they share, like a romance or whatever, talking about the hobbies, and then you share kind of your biases, right? So you might, if you are if you enough influential, you might start affecting other ones, and or somebody can affect you, and
Interesting.
that's where the influence on community, which we'll be talking later in the next questions, um, start get into play, because nothing in this world will be static. That is plan. This is as much variable as possible to make
Right.
this world unpredictable. I don't want to know, like, I'm gonna come back, let's say, decade later to one place and I know exactly where it was and it will be like that.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. No,
it will
that's cool.
change, but it will be different, right? So, so biases, yeah, definitely will be changing, and they will be weaken it or make it stronger. And you can change, for example, under influence that over the time, what something once was you don't play football at home might be, it's completely allowed,
Now you do it.
Yeah. So.
uh, I was also wanting to know. I guess this leads into I think what you were going to touch on, but that AI can influence the communities and vice versa. How much control will players have in shaping those social norms? It sounds like there's like some blueprints at the start, and then maybe some actions that you can do throughout, and then they kind of take those things and run with them potentially.
Yeah. So obviously, basics things I did mention already, right? But influence. So first is the first thing. For example, if you want to be an influencer, I'm not talking about the mobile influencer. I'm talking like
Right.
you go into the world, because I want to stay as much as possible from that digitalized world. Not saying there won't be any, but if you want to have longer time span, you want, there wasn't digital things, but there was newspapers, there was notice boards and all that, right? Anyway, but you as a character, you play, you are Yumi's, one of the Yumi's. You are Yumi, and you go into the world and talk with the other characters, right?
Yeah.
And let's say you want to spread your belief, or let's say your own social norms. Social norms to, let's say, this is good to actually play football at home, right, or something like that.
Right.
And this is just example. I still have things to work out, but this is just actually good fun example to stick to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and you spread those influence over the time. You influence that, let's say, being outside is good thing, and it might be more. Yumis will be going outside, willing to stay outside if they will be under more influence. So you not only have spreading your norms or prejudices or something like that, but you're affecting others. You make it stronger. You might be actually have stronger influence because you
Right.
are more popular, right? And
Yeah.
then if you decide, for example, go to political career, because I want some kind of maybe kind of equivalent of government, or let's say what is because you won't have maybe president because it's small kind of community of thousand or whatever
Right.
will be called, baron or whatever.
Yeah.
And now you have more chance to change things, actually more significantly, because you might have, for example, prohibit going to school or vice versa. And I think how community gonna behave, so basically prohibit to driving by car. If you prohibit that, that community might say, okay, this is bad thing. Now changing their mind, and if you, for example, not allowed to driving by car or driving by any transportation along the roads, so that means that basically I cannot have done as much things in the day which I was planning to, and will
Right.
affect your lifestyle. So now you got ripple effect. And if you
Right.
change too many things at once, basically start forcing things at once, of course, the happiness and potentially, I don't know, riots or some kind of effect of against the strikes or something like that. It's still a big thing because a lot of things about how exactly we'll execute it and will be punished if you change too much at once. But the idea is to actually create any form of social policies, well, as many as the game allows to. So you change the social policies of the community which you live in. So you basically experiment with the things. How this ripples, how this affects. I want to be
Yeah.
like kind of form of like a genetics as well, because you have certain beliefs or certain prejudices and biases, and you spread those, and it does like a genetic spread over the community or gets sucked by other, because you might have couple communities groups actually have their own beliefs in the certain areas,
Right.
and clashing between each other.
Which is real world. Yeah.
Yeah, it is real world, right? And these things which I would like to look at it, into implementing. So things like that. I'm not sure if I'm going too far off the topic, but yeah, basically
No.
influencing those things from being as a small part, just talking by your closest circles, to get into the political career and have much stronger influence.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
Yeah. No, it's interesting hearing you talk about this stuff. So.
And the saying that this is not something haven't been done as well. So this is not something
Right.
which is
Right. No.
yeah.
But
So
it's
it's been done in many.
just hearing you, the thought that you're putting into this stuff before, or like your understanding of it. It is interesting. So it's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what you do implement and like how you do that stuff, because you seem to have like an interesting grasp on these things. So with like hundreds to thousands of AI characters potentially influencing the world, how do you plan to like manage emergent gameplay while still maintaining some structure? Or is it just free game, free for all sort of thing?
Yeah, so basically each Yumi has own life, all right? So in the
Yeah.
in the shortest. So there's not said that, okay, this family will be working all the time in that place. I want to some predictability, as I did mention. I want to be
Right.
some chaos in the world. And it might happen that, well, there will be some balancing, and maybe will need to be some kind of forcing certain aspects, certain properties, parameters, to make this world work. But it might happen that at the beginning, the whole community will collapse, right?
Yeah.
because there is big imbalance of the system. But idea is to create enough the direction, enough elements into the mechanics that those Yumis will create enough stable community, stable in the sense they will, population will grow and, in this, and expand. But the question is, does those aspects like the policies, those prejudices, or the spreading those influences will affect that community will be wealthy, poor, or there will be different
Right.
classes, right? And I don't want to define those. I
Right.
want to see it to actually happen. Like in the social, got socialism, you've got capitalism, form of democracy, some republics, and other, systems, those all the different system how they work, completely different, a mixture, not strictly sticking to those ones, but create their own one, right?
Yeah.
And to allow to experiment. So and allow the Yumis to also climb their own career, right? So if they expand and maybe evolution of the generation. So, but in short, I want to chaos. I want actually real chaos.
Yeah, yeah. Reality is chaotic.
Yes, exactly.
I think a lot of people too. Oh, what were you gonna say?
And it's gonna collapse, and it's gonna collapse, right?
Oh, yeah, no, exactly. I think a lot of people too, when they talk about like AI, they're like, oh, well, is it going to like just know all these things like on its own? And it's like, well, we don't even know all these things on our own. We get some influence. We're essentially programmed, right, prior to have this general idea of what community is. And then that general idea that's been passed down forever then gets shifted, right? So yeah, it's interesting. Are there any particular player choices that will have like the biggest impact on the game in the world? Like, I know you're saying that there's going to be like maybe blueprints or things like that where you can develop stuff, but do you have any idea for anything in particular?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, the blueprint, I mean, it says, if you mean the blueprint of the...
Like the room or...
Oh, room, okay, yeah. Yeah, so, okay, in that sense, right, okay. Well, modding, obviously, if you go in this direction, but probably if someone in terms of the playtime, like when you're playing. So, because when you're taking the player choices, okay, maybe let's specify. So in the blueprints, so that's something in part of the modding feature.
Right.
Could be. Yeah. Or maybe actually during the gameplay as well, you can create those things, right? You build house, like for example, in the background, you can see the video, right? You will be able to create, build your own one and save this as a blueprint, and might be potentially reused. So this will be definitely big impact. And you as a player, you will have a relatively small influence when you're starting off, right? Because you're just characters as in others before you actually climb anywhere or start having influence.
Right.
But if you get... depends how you want to go, but I want to have a bit of evolution of the world itself. And maybe as a player, you want, maybe if you like getting into the government direction, decide like, oh, I want to place the roads maybe there, so make new places to live on, something like that. Or maybe this will be like generated over the time.
Can they shift it a little? Like it's like, if they are wanting to maybe move the community, will they have the ability to like flood an area or something, or make it continuously have flooding or something to make it like, oh, you guys picked the wrong spot to live, so maybe you start thinking about moving somewhere else or something, that sort of thing? Or have you thought about that yet?
No, I haven't been thought about this. This potentially possible, but I think I leave that to modders.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so because there's a lot of things, mechanics, which is nice to have, and we can think about this, but I'm thinking even though the complex is relatively basics.
Yeah.
To make the core, but enough to make it playable, because I want to make this something playable actually game. So in terms of I feel like I didn't answer this question to this as you might have wanted, but the idea is of having that butterfly effect. Whatever you do, in the world as a small player, and even chatting or joining somebody playing the football to growing the relation. This
Yeah,
might affect later down, in the road, which you never know because you spent some time with this person, not with the other one, and vice versa.
right. No,
Yeah.
that's
So
interesting. A side question on that, or something I want to bring up. So, yeah, you are planning on really helping. You want to have like a modding community, and you're making the
mhm.
game with the idea of like you want it to be accessible to modders. So that's really cool. Just wanted to bring that up so everyone knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
actually, that leads into the next question.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so how do you plan to involve the community in development? And like, will there be dedicated modding tools, forums, or like dev updates?
Yeah. So first of all, so in terms of the development, I already publish demo, or I would say tech demo, which is available to download, but it's very early in from October, so it's very buggy. I
Right,
am not
right.
scared of say on that, but this is what it is. But
Yeah.
I'm really like I want to emphasize that I'm serious about this project. Whatever I'm showing, or even my T-shirt, which I've
Yes,
been given on the Christmas
I
to
love
make
that.
right. Yeah. So, so yeah, in terms of so I want to have every few months, I'm gonna try to push demos with some updates. At least until early access, to then see what's gonna be happening. But
Yeah.
until then, I will be demos. So that's first layer. Demos will have whatever I'm showing at the moment. So, for example, is the map editor available already? Okay,
Right.
so. Um, I will be expanding upon Lua modding features as I'm gonna get into the autonomy of characters and more interaction between the characters.
Cool.
Something which will be more important to think about this. And this is something which I've been working on different projects, especially Sanctuary's Shattered Sun, I will mention.
Yeah, yeah. That game looked really cool and was really big. So I can see. I'm not surprised that you as someone who worked on it come out and have like big ideas, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah. The problem with the ideas is that there are a lot of ideas. We're going to be talking about this in the moment as well. There's a lot of ideas come into mind, but how to constrain them because it's very important and it's very challenging. Anyway, regarding that question particular, which we had just a moment ago, yeah, Lua will allow to script things. This is very basic at the moment. Lua only allows at a given moment allows only to let characters go where they want and they randomly places, but somebody can say I want to go there or there. So if somebody wanted like modding, that's for now is only available. I want to
That's
expand
cool.
upon that. I got technically or basics of working importing objects this is very basics and I got some books as well with that but basics of furniture's concept or something which will be in the furnitures in the future. So I had some video which have been placing the beds around, and so this is part of the modding because it's imported model. It been imported to the game with the specific information and actually can play. So already can be some stuff being implemented to the game, but this is something I'm gonna fix and work on very soon. There won't be visual scripting or similar modding tools, at least not early time. Something
Right.
which let's say like Bayou did focus on. Which it is really great, but it's very time consuming and for the
Yeah.
time resources not feasible to do. And I think a lot of resources or different tools are available, helpful, which can allow to do things which are not necessary for the core of the game. And even there's like program with Scratch, this is like web-based Scratch program, which is visual scripting and can convert Lua into the actually or the visual graphs. So somebody who doesn't know, exactly language, but can write with some logic and can convert into Lua and potentially be implemented to the game. So this kind of tools exist and can be used if somebody really want to. And in the future, it does depend if the community, the game actually will, get successful into
Right.
long run. So yeah, so that's in terms of the modding. I'm just checking if I miss anything. But yeah, I think that's basically. Oh yeah, in terms of involvement, mm, so there will be Discord, there will be Reddit. Mm, I'm considering about the Steam workshop later on. Although Steam workshop has
Yeah.
certain limitations, but for sure for most mods it should be suitable. Um, and allow the flexibility. Certain things, maybe dedicated areas like website or something like that, something under consideration and depends on the community and resources.
I'll say, as an indie developer, you having a subreddit already that you like post to, that's already like a head start from like what I see normally. So I think that's really cool. So, oh, were you going to say something?
I mean, you were thinking, so I'll let you.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's cool. I think it seems like it's cool that you're developing it with the idea of like really making it easy for modders, and it seems like you're doing everything to build up that like foundation of communication between the players and you. Like you've got a good foundation going already, and you're still in the very, very early stages. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I think it's important to show, and a few games work for that, with that kind of aspect. I'm really inspired by Factorio, by Minecraft, and by From the Depths, those games which I've been following from early development or relatively early. Basically,
Yeah.
they've been showing the alpha or pre-alpha games, and they didn't care. Well, not sorry, the wrong word, not care, but didn't get scared about, that's basically is buggy or something like that. They just been
Right.
pushing, and doing and had early feedback from the community. Also, it is really painful for me seeing games like I know I'm bringing in, but I really was hoping for Life by You, and I've been like anticipating, but spending on the game for 6 years, just or 5 years before you're announcing, and then just coming to that basically closure, at sudden me thinking that okay, I'm gonna work for a couple of years on the games, not giving even the hint what I'm working on in the secrecy, then to only find out that something doesn't work. It is
Right.
basically not the direction I'm looking for. I'm in the um, uh, I'm in that kind of school that's basically to show what you have, grow your community, get the
Yeah.
critic, because people will be criticized, obviously, as well as seeing the pricing. Um, and especially when you don't have resources, when you're limited, you need to do marketing in some form. But this is the
Right.
cheapest way for marketing, because just do slowly, and then just do as you are and be yourself, right? So
Yeah, and you are spending, like I said before, a lot of time making sure that each step is, set up properly. So I think that that's great. I think that, I think both ways of development work for some, but I think as an indie developer, I think you're right that having this like setting up this line of communication with players early on is great because they can help shape your game or help you find those bugs. And I think I have no doubt that you're going to find those players for this game that like are going to stick around throughout all of this and like be your like community. I think it's great. I am curious. Okay, so some games struggle with balancing like developer vision and community driven content. How do you plan to navigate that?
yeah, so it is very interesting question, as many others one, but a very important one, and the God is asked. I mean, I'm going back again to the inspiration from the depths, for example. But Factorio and the Minecraft, those games, this did inspire me how they approach certain things and decide basically go slow. So first thing, okay, so I want to have modding community, but also I want to avoid rapid influence of the community. So, for
Okay.
example, what I mean by that is um, certain games, for example, approach this that by building the base of the game, they start like driving the hype and allowed influence community. Okay, let's get ideas and start implementing those ideas into the game. But what's happening is then that okay, developers focus on those ideas, start implementing, and we're getting into the feature creep. What's it called?
Right.
And it's very hard to control because you're adding new features. We're observing many games this happening.
Yeah.
Um, and you would thought you will learn those things about observing different games, but I think there's still gaps is in that expertise. And it is also difficult to implement because especially when you're, for example, driven by community which supports you not only by being there but financially, and then you want to satisfy those group of people
Right.
by giving them something away, right? But by doing that as well, if you're allowed to do that, then you're spreading your thing because you got only a certain amount of resources and the people which can work. And this basically you focus on those, but forgetting about very important core of the game, right? And no doubt those games are getting released eventually. But now suddenly, done 1-2 years of the any release or demo, now we got 6 years in development and there's not even demo.
Right.
So how I want to approach this is by requesting, actually creating the while the modding will be part of the allow people create the mods, but something which gonna end up in the game is or it will be based on the request poll. So the
Oh,
process
okay.
is this is inspiration from other forums games which I've been a part of from early alpha. So process is very simple. You say that to the community, okay, now we collect the ideas. Obviously the ideas will be always flowing, but this is specifically poll for flowing the ideas. But there are few rules here. First, for the most, the rule is that we only limit the ideas to something to what is currently in the game, in the sense, okay, if you see my game, I don't have rivers. Somebody requests I want boats. Sorry, no boats because we don't have water. Okay?
Right.
But if somebody requests that I want to crossroads, or I want to lakes, then yes, okay, this idea can come and be validated and potentially taken further on into investigation. So this is the first thing. So the
That makes sense.
filtering something what we can implement and with the reasonable resources. A certain layer is once we got validated those ideas, we create a poll and asking people what you want the most of those.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, community driven. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love a good
you choose
democracy.
yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to those features, you choose those features, but now which one of those you want to? And we again validate if the resources available for implement, or judging how much time we need to be for this thing. And if everything is okay, we'll start looking into start implementing. It might be day, it might be week or months to implement thing, but based on that, this is community driven and it's more reasonable, and there is no basically not creating kind of the priority that those people have. They need to be clear about that. I don't want to prioritize because you contribute in this one and then you have priority for this one. Basically, if it might be hard for someone, but if you clear straight away how you use your idea, there's no problem then. And then you avoid at least some of the feature creeping, because the feature creeping even is in my idea, right? In my mind when I'm creating the project. I need to control myself what to
Yeah.
implement, right? And for example, I would like have animated characters, although, and a lot of other features. But say I'm not going to implement that until I have actually basic game working,
Right.
and actually have right resources for it. Even though I have actually know who's going to be implemented, I know already who's going to do that, but it's not right time, right?
It sounds like you're doing the right steps for it. Yeah.
I
Again, like
hope. I
building that
mean,
good foundation.
it's just different. Same like I implemented the whole audio system with audio engineer in Sanctuary. Yeah, I know I could do that, but I'm not doing this because it's not right time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some ideas, it's like, yes, but putting a pin in it, right? Like eventually we'll get back to that. That makes sense, though. That's a good way to actually get the game developed, I think.
Yeah, for the considering that at the moment is one man hand. So
Have you had any like surprising or insightful feedback from the early testers? Like, has there been anything that was like most surprising to you?
yeah, so well, more surprising. I mean, feedback from my girlfriend is the first for the most important feedback. Because she's always see what I'm doing and criticize me or supporting me, by those things.
Yeah.
And sometimes I say, no, I'm not gonna do that. And she said, okay, you should. I say, no, I'm not gonna do that. But then, yeah, actually, I've done that, right? So let's say the
Right.
room in the background, right? I didn't want to do it, but I had the old one, but no, I didn't want to do that one. I spent a couple of days actually implemented this one. You're balancing with it with this feature creeping. Sometimes, I decided, okay, I'm not doing it because it's not time for it. But I'm thinking, okay, so this is my first feedback, right? Second one is I had lovely playtester which has recently published the video.
I'll
On the
link
demo,
that. Yeah, if you send it to me.
yeah. Yes, actually, it is also available on Reddit, but you can still link it if you want
Oh,
to.
okay. Yeah.
I can do it on this or this. If you don't want to dig out, I can send you a link. And so this playtester was playing the demo from October, which is old one, and because I
Yeah.
haven't published next updates yet, because there's so many changes at once, unfortunately, and that might take it time. But the important is that this feedback was showing if the state of the game at that time for most was not playable, but it showed how the person was creative, and it was very interesting to see,
Yeah.
how creativity shows into the game, what it can be done, even certain limitation.
Yeah.
In regards of the other community feedback, because I don't have that much feedback as of yet in terms of the
Yeah.
gameplay itself, but I got people which are watching, right? So they're watching. Slowly numbers growing, but steadily. And so generally there's positive reception in terms of the project, but there's a lot of anticipation and distance as well, especially considering like by you situation and other live sim which been in the production but been, let's say, discontinued. So there is that. As well, I had some skepticism as well from other part of the community, which is fine, and I completely
Yeah.
accept healthy skepticism. And again, there's the same situation. Why? Because all the we see those games unfortunately sometimes cease to exist, right? And
Right.
sometimes abruptly. So it's just it just happened. Mm, so yeah, there is that. So yeah, I got feedback. I got some people which are participating in discussing certain things or ideas on Discord, mostly on Discord at the moment because community is small. But those things actually, this is really very interesting and positive, driven, encouraging to work. So in terms of insightful, yes, I think those ones are very important for solo developers.
I think your game is definitely like the definition of a passion project. Like I can tell you are putting a lot into it, and yeah, that's just always nice to see. So given that this game is like a pretty big scale, you have a lot of ideas, right? That you're taking your time to implement them properly. But I have to ask, what game engine or tool do you develop in? And is there a particular reason you ended up using that one? And also, have you tried developing in a different tool or engine and like realized that didn't work for you?
Yeah. So I'm working on Unity. So using Unity and Unity dots. So obviously we got different engines as well, including Godot and Unreal. So the most common one, but there are other as well tools. I mean, I've been developing not games itself, but with the programming. I had contact since my early teenage years, and the different different kind of names, including game makers and all that. I've been trying those. Obviously, with the Unity, I started in 2013 when I started modding. I started modding the From the Depths game, which is a game about kind of voxel vehicles you build. You can fly and fight with each other and build a complex system. I'm crazy about building the systems and all that.
That's cool.
So Unity. So 2013, 2014, roughly, I started modding, and since then I started building different systems and prototyping while I was working or studying. In my free time, I've just been doing the different things and a bit more exploring. And a few years later, I joined Sanctuary Shattered Sun, but actually in Hearted Media, which was working Sanctuary Shattered Sun as lead programmer. So it happens that actually it was as well Unity, and I learned as well before actually that I started working with DOTS, so the data-oriented technology stack, which is focused on performance and multi-threading, specifically utilizing the CPU of the computers, because many games using only one to few CPU cores and mostly focus on graphics. And I think that graphics is all good and cool, but thinking that CPUs are underutilized in many games. So with those technology, I saw that possibilities and I started enjoying the things which I can do, like having 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 of things happening on the screen, making complex systems and all that. That's why in Sanctuary I started working on those, and with the focus of having 10,000 units. So Sanctuary is the RTS game.
Yeah, giant game.
Yes, giant game. If anyone maybe knows this the idea sparked from Supreme Commander or Total Annihilation, if anyone of viewers will maybe recall those games. Anyway, basically it's about having a lot of things happen on the screen, which also are complex in terms of the computation, and not everything can be done on the GPU, especially when you're talking about the multiplayer and all that. So I joined this project, and I was expanding my knowledge on dots as well, or actually elevating this skills which I gained. And with the situation of Light by You, which actually was sparking to actually start this project, and my aspiration in the past. So I started UMeFate, and I said, okay, this is the best tools which I believe I can use. Obviously, there are other engines. I don't have much experience with Unreal or Godot, but I didn't need those ones not because they're bad or something, because they're different tools for different things. And with my understanding expertise over the years, Unity with dots is the best tool for what I want to achieve. I don't want to focus I don't, for example, want to focus on very realistic graphic. I want to focus on the CPU side, which I think Unity is the best thing for it, and had enough tools compared maybe to other engines for what I need in the specific project, right? So that's why I decided to stick to Unity and not spending another year or 2 years on learning other tools.
Yeah.
Because I will be, I will need to learn those things, right? And I work in the C sharp, it's specifically language. For example,
Yeah.
Unreal, if I want to achieve something, which is what I'm doing, I would need to move to C++, which I'm not as that skilled. And usually you need more people as well to dive into the engine core. So yeah, with those expertise again, this is something which I the most understood as a solo developer can do. And so this different project, we got a nice community, we got a lot of feedback. So I'm already, certain recognized as well. So yeah, I'm not alone on this one, right?
That makes sense. That makes sense because I've developed with Unity and Unreal, and they both have like they're both capable of a lot of things, and it really is whichever tool you're most comfortable using, right? And then it makes sense with your previous experience that Unity and Dots, like you've seen what it's capable of, so it just makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense completely. So you do emphasize performance as like a key pillar. What specific optimizations are you implementing to maintain stable 60 frames per second and or 60 frames per second with so many like AI driven elements? I know one thing you mentioned sort of was, not using one of these other AI tools that is there because that does cause a lot of overhead. Any other things?
Yeah, so dots is specifically the first main key pillar in this project. So because utilizing the CPU, so a lot of will be driven by multi-core CPUs, multi-threading, elevating those things, which allows technically to run certain game mechanics on lower end PC or let's say mid end PCs
Nice.
upward. In terms of the mechanics. Graphics is another aspect, but the graphics that will come later at some point when I have resources. So the mechanics is most critical, and so yeah, Unity dots is the first thing. Certain things is profiling. It's all the time profiling, and this is what I've been doing in other projects. But as well, it requires a lot of time. And while I aim to 60 frames per second, it might be fluctuating up and down because I'm also experimenting with certain features. And maybe some demo will be lower, but I will be always strive and push, okay, what I can do, how I can optimize things.
Right.
And improve to reach the promise. Similar that with Sanctuary, we've been always aiming, trying to have those 60 frames per second. That always was simple because of the choosing of technologies and the direction of development. But focus on those improvements. So those expertise coming from there. And those tools basically allows me to, as I mentioned, the quickest way and most expertise to bring that. So I'm just thinking what else I missed in this one. Yeah, there are tricks as well in terms of the implementation because you don't have to necessarily run everything in one frame. There are tricks so you can spread load of it in multiple frames or execute certain things every so often, even like every 1 second. So while certain mechanics should be happening or is advisory to happen more often, but certain things doesn't need to be, right? For example, if you want to observe the world, because characters doesn't move that fast, you have enough time to, let's say, execute something every 1 second, right?
Right.
If there will be problem, I can spread load over multiple frames over the duration of seconds to do more things in the time if that will be the problem.
I'm sure you're figuring out the balance of that as you're like testing stuff, right? That makes sense.
So yeah, those tricks. There's a lot of tricks and the smoke and mirrors as well coming into it. That while it's still living world. So yeah, those few aspects which I try to aim for 60 frames per second.
Okay. And then last question. What are like the biggest technical hurdles that you've faced so far? Essentially, solo developing such an ambitious game? I mean, you've said you've gotten like some resources or like, random help from people, but you're essentially solo developing like a really ambitious game. So I'm just wondering, like, what technical hurdles have you hit and like how have you addressed them?
Yeah, so obviously, choosing technology is not the biggest problem. The biggest challenge is, well, obviously making sure everything works, right?
Right.
So there's tons and tons of debugging, you're right. But where it comes from. So what I do first, before actually, start working on the particular feature, I write the prototype. And prototype is basically, I try to relatively fast to implement, to test the idea and the specific mechanics. It's some kind of aligned with the direction I want to develop, but the idea basically tests the certain system mechanics mostly. And then comes in when you want to actually implement into the project, into the systems. And then when the challenges start happening, because you want to be, you need to streamline. We're actually rewriting whole thing,
Right.
because you're basically scrapping, you live in the prototype and you're rewriting called prototype again, but with the streamline and the idea of those aspects, whether it's modding, whether it's the performance, whether there's basically in-play interaction with things. So, for example, one of the challenges when actually I rewrote twice now the system, the building, the building construction. First one, basically, I use the asset, which I want to test it out. If I can do whatever I want with it.
Right.
Seems promising, but for example, I found a certain limitation, and basically I had to go like into loops and the back doors, and I tried to figure out how to implement, and I was losing that's the performance aspect. And I used that asset because I didn't fully understood the specific algorithm which I needed. And the implementation was one of the way I basically I did with the asset. Then I started writing actually my script for the first time to actually the prototype. With implementation of this asset, and somehow this work was fine. But there were certain bugs, and I knew if I start investigating those bugs, I will actually need to follow with this asset. And this asset wasn't updated anyway, so it was unpredictable as the state as this was. So eventually when the time came right, because I knew I had to move on, and I want to approach to autonomy of characters, I need to do certain things right, and I need those things which are basically broken at that time. So I had to rewrite the whole thing, and I did the research, another research on how to actually implement those things which I had missing. I started looking into the study or whatever materials to figure out how to do it. And I did find out, I did experiment, but it wasn't without bugs again, right? So
Right.
I had to implement, fixing the certain bugs and all that. And complexity came also from one aspect, which with one system which I want to implement, I don't want to disclose yet because I don't know if it's going to end up or not. Depends on the results, but something might be interesting to the player potentially in the future if that actually will end up in the game. So, but that implements the complexity of those, which hasn't been in the prototype, for example, or was just partially.
Right.
But debugging is the most, time-consuming aspect of development, and I don't think is any development which is without the debugging. So
No, absolutely. And even like the bugs, I always remind myself, like, it's like, and I think it's important for indie developers to remember, like, AAA studios release games with bugs still, so that's totally a common part of development. That's just the way it is. Like, all you can do is take note of the bugs as they come and then resolve them. So yeah, and especially that's a big workload whenever you are a solo developer. So hopefully your community, I hope all indie devs have like a community that just gives some grace when it comes to that, because that's just a part of development for sure. But yeah, I've really enjoyed getting to talk with you today.
Yeah, I appreciate. I really also, Emily, did enjoy as well.
Yes, and you're going to be the third interview that I post, so I will hopefully have that out soon. I do want to say to anyone listening, like definitely the links will be included. Go check it out. I'm subbed to your like subreddit, and I encourage everyone else to do the same. Check it out, and I'm certain you will find it as intriguing as me. So yeah, was there anything else you wanted to say?
Well, definitely thank you. I was very great. Thank you for the community for actually joining, and whether it's small or
Yeah,
not, but it's very important. Very little, helps. Very
yeah.
encourage. Um, Thank
All
you to
right.
my girlfriend support, and thank you to you,
Oh
Emily,
yes,
for having me.
yes. I look forward to seeing more of her influence in the game. I'm sure she's right about whatever she says.
Yes, everybody says that. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I will keep up with you, and yeah, thanks again for coming on.